Hi everybody, it's Rachel from Treehouse Knits. Welcome to episode 16 of the podcast. It has been a long time since I've been with you guys, and I'm really thrilled to be here today with you. I was upstairs in my little treehouse studio, and I was just kind of working on some things and thought, you know what, I'll put the camera up and let's do a quick podcast here. So today, what I want to talk about is the subscriber giveaway that I announced a month or so ago. Since then, I've added several more viewers, so if you're a new subscriber, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here and you're joining our community. So we'll talk about who won the subscriber giveaway. I'll show you some cute little things that I've finished in the last couple months, as well as show you what I'm working on right now. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So first off, we've got a little subscriber giveaway going. If you'll recall, I put together a package that included these mitts, and here is the yarn. This is Peace Fleece yarn. I got this when I went to Maine last year, this beautiful kit, and it also includes a nice little write-up about Peace Fleece. If you don't know anything about Peace Fleece, I highly recommend you check them out on their website. I talked about it in detail on the last podcast when I announced the subscriber giveaway. But that kit is included, as well as a copy of Making. This is, what issue is this? This is the #2 issue, the Fauna issue. And there are just some great patterns in here, articles, even some coloring pages. So, that was also included in the subscriber giveaway. Now for the subscriber giveaway, I did something a little self-serving. I wanted to find out what breeds of sheep you all wanted to learn more about. If you'll recall, I've been kind of on a mission to learn about different sheep breeds in this world. There's just so many, and I do a quick study of each of a sheep breed on each episode. So I was curious what you all wanted to learn about, and my gosh, I got over 28 sheep ideas and 3 non-sheep ideas, which I hadn't thought about, so that will be fun to kind of look into those. Just to kind of give you the highlights, the top winners were the BFL. A lot of you wanted to learn about Shetland, Gotland, and then a couple of you Coopworth, Cotswold, Merino, Rambouillet. Those were the big ones, and I will definitely be focusing on those as well as some of the others that you mentioned. So thank you for participating. I did the random number generator to find out our winner, and our winner was number 36, post number 36. That's Becky714. Congratulations, Becky. She said in the post, "It's really interesting learning about different sheep breeds from around the world. I am doing the Wonders of the World Cal, and when we were in Australia, Grace talked about the white gum wool sheep. I did get some of the yarn, and it is wonderful, but they may be worth a visit down under." So thank you, Becky. Becky, when you get this, when you see that you've won, I'll probably drop you a line too on Ravelry, but just shoot me your mailing address and I will send out that package to you. Congratulations, Becky. So thank you again for all of you who participated in the subscriber giveaway. Also, wanted to kind of make a formal ending to our book club. We were reading women's work, and we have a Facebook group on Facebook that is called the Textile History Reading Group. We had, I think, over 100 members on that group, and there's people still asking to join the group. If you're still interested in participating, grab yourself a copy of this wonderful book, and you can go ahead and look at all the different posts we post for each chapter of the book and the discussion. People put links that kind of enrich the reading from the book. It's on Facebook. Feel free to go on there, search the Textile History Reading Group, and we will let you into there. This book, to me, it's written from an archaeologist's perspective. It was a great read. I learned so much about just the history of textile work that women primarily did throughout the ages. And there's fascinating information in here about the drop spindle and weaving and the Industrial Revolution and how that affected the way women worked. Highly recommend if you like history and if you are into textile arts, this is a must read for you. So thank you to all who have participated in this great discussion, and maybe we'll do another discussion down the road. Okay, wanted to also let you know that you might see down below, especially on the last couple of podcasts, there is a professor from the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. His name is Dr. Greg. You've probably heard about this on other podcasts, but he reached out to several of us. I guess we're podcasters that his wife watches, so Dr. Greg's wife, if you're watching, hello. He is doing a study on podcast viewing. And if you participate in the study, you have a chance to win some Etsy gift cards in the end for doing so. I went ahead and did the survey. It took me a few minutes, and this is definitely a legitimate thing. He's going to share with us the information when he's rounded it up. So if you're into that thing, feel free to click on the link. I think it's the episode before this to join in on that. So check that out. All right, so let's get into some of the items that I've finished in the last month or so. And you can find all of these items on my Ravelry page. I'm Treehouse Knits on Ravelry. I'm Treehouse Knits on all the socials. You can find me on Instagram, where I post quite often my works in progress and my finished objects. But some of the things that I was really hitting hard in the last couple of months were socks. This is the year of sock knitting for my hubby. Socks for Hubby 2017 is my hashtag that I've been using. And I just want to share a few pairs that I finished and talk to you briefly about them. This particular pair was one of the first that I finished in the last couple of months. And it's just my basic toe up, 2 at a time, afterthought heel sock with 2x2 ribbing at the top. What I wanted to just point out to you on these is the amazing dye job. This is a yarn by Brew City Yarns. It's called Patina, and it's their premium draft sock yarn. I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of pooling, and I just was amazed when I knit these up how beautifully even the dyeing is. So if you're like me and you like even dyeing a little bit better than pooling, check out Brew City Yarns. They know what they're doing. Okay, so the next pair that I finished was some sock yarn from my friend Hannah in Finland. She, if you recall, she sent to me a whole shipload of this Nale, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, Novita, which I absolutely love. I got it in a swap a couple years ago from a friend, and I couldn't find it anywhere and mentioned it on my podcast, and Hannah so graciously offered that up to me, and we did a trade. But oh, I love this. I love the colors. Again, did it toe up 2 at a time, afterthought heel. And as I was cutting in the heel, and I mentioned this on Instagram, if you're new to doing afterthought heels, I highly suggest you find a micro striping yarn, because it makes picking up the 2 rows of stitches so much easier. As you can see, you just pick up the stripe. So I highly recommend you check that out. There's several different dyers that do micro striping. It does make life just a lot easier. What else did I want to say about this yarn? I think that's about it. I knit a few pairs of socks that are already on my husband's feet, so I can't show you, but I did not let him get these socks yet, because these I wanted to talk to a little bit about. These are socks. The yarn is Blue Moon Fiber Arts in their Loch Ness colorway. This is their silky sock. And these I did a little differently. I was inspired by the Afterthought Everything. I think that's what the sock is called. There was a pattern and some people had started to do it. And I thought a couple years ago, what would happen if I just knit an entire tube and then split it off for the heels and the toes? And I thought that when I was traveling, because I thought, it'd be great if I just had a project that I could knit a long tube. Because I kind of like that kind of knitting when we're traveling or when we're in the car. So that's what I did for these. What I did was I knit a 28-inch long tube, and I started with the 3x1 rib and I ended with a 3x1 rib, and then I found the point in the middle and broke them up into two, and then I just made toes and I made heels, and I made them the same way with the wedge style. I'll insert some pictures in here of the process. My feeling of after I finished this about that particular technique, while I did like knitting the long tube, the heels and toes kind of felt like a little bit of a slog. It just lasted forever. So while it isn't my favorite way to knit socks, it's definitely a good way if I know I want to take a small project with me somewhere, if I'm on a plane or something, long travel time, and I just want something to knit and not have to get scissors out or stitch markers, that kind of thing. So check it out, do it once just to see if you like doing it that way. All right, so with the socks being out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about some other fun projects that I worked on. These I worked on in the last couple of weeks. One of them is, I don't know if you can see it with the glare, but this travel mug. I got this idea maybe a year ago. I saw somebody doing it where you just knit a sleeve. I'll take it apart. It's basically just knitting this tube, and this is the first time I've ever done it, so I actually put ribbing on one end and then I just bound off on the other end, and I think next time I do one I would just cast on and knit and do no ribbing. But you can get these tumbler mugs, these travel mugs, technically they're for inserting pictures. And somebody on Instagram or Ravelry, I don't know, gave me the idea of buying one of those and using some extra sock yarn. A while ago I made a sock head hat out of this yarn, and I had some extra and I really liked it. This is actually some Three Irish Girls. I forget the sock color, but you can find it on my Ravelry, Treehouse Knits. And I loved it so much. And so what you do is you just fit it around here. I think I cast on maybe 50 stitches, and there is a free pattern on Ravelry that I linked to in my project notes, but I did not even look at it when I started the project. I did this in the car last week. But I just think that's a cool way to use up your old sock yarn. So check that out. I got these on Amazon. I think if you just search photo travel mug, you'll get different options. And then the other thing that I got really into on our vacation last week, we went up north to the lake in Michigan. We were at Walloon Lake. It was beautiful up there. We were with our extended relatives, and I had a couple of really young nephews with, and I thought it would be really fun to try out Susan B. Anderson's octopus pattern. And I'll insert some pictures of the first two octopus patterns that I did right here. Okay, and then this is the final one. What a great, great, great pattern. It's really ingenious because you'd think looking at this, oh gosh, you gotta make all this I-cord and then sew it all in, but the I-cord is actually part of the pattern and knit right in. There's no seaming required at all in this. One of the tips that I would recommend if you're doing the octopus pattern is to get yourself a really nice pair of DPNs. This is my preferred DPNs for knitting up toys. And it's my preferred needle because of, these are the Knitter's Carbons, because the grippiness of the black carbon section makes it so your 2 or 3 stitches per needle do not slide off. And I love the tips. They're pointy enough to get in there for those knit two togethers and other things that you need, other fiddly techniques that you use for toy making, but it's also got the metal tip, which makes it nice and smooth when you're knitting. So I love this brand for any kind of fiddly toy knitting. And then the pattern, when you get down to this section, she has you putting the stitches on waste yarn. I did that for the first time, the first octopus that I made, and it was so fiddly to kind of pick out those stitches from the waste yarn because of the way that the pattern cinches in at this point. So the second time, I happened to have my Haya 9-inch circulars, my size 1. I don't know if you can see those in there, but boy, did that make a difference. And I highly recommend you use circular needles as your waste yarn, because then you're able to just slide off the stitches as you need them so much easier. I'll insert a few pictures here of the process. So then in terms of the face, I used some embroidery floss that I had in a black color. Each face is different. I don't do enough faces to make them look good, but this was the best I could get on this. This particular yarn too is a Stonehenge Fiber shepherd's wool yarn. The colorway is Aurora, and it's a worsted weight yarn. So there's my octopus. Those are my fun little toys. And then I have 2 bigger projects that I've been working on this summer. The first project, excuse me while I bend down here, is a bag. After I watched the last episode of Espace Tricot, I love that podcast. To me, that podcast, that's the 2 owners of the yarn store in Montreal. I think, yeah, Montreal. I hope it's Montreal. What I love about that is a year ago or so, I lost my local yarn store, and I used to work there. I taught classes there, and I was really up on kind of the new products and new yarns that were coming into the store, and I really liked that knowledge. And to me, that podcast gives me that knowledge, exactly what I needed. Well, they talked about a new yarn that they are producing out of Lithuania, I believe, and it's a linen yarn. They said on their podcast that it felt to them softer than the other linen yarns they've used. So I went ahead and bought 3 skeins in hopes to make a bag. And first I took the skeins and I wound them on my skein winder and had a center pull ball. And that center pull ball just fell in on, because there's no elasticity in linen, when you pull out of the center, it all just falls on itself. And what I've used in the past are little baggies that I would put around, and I know they even make sleeves that you can put around skeins, and that worked pretty well. I didn't have on me at the time any baggies or sleeves, so I went ahead and wound them into balls, and that seems to be working really well for me too. So I highly recommend you either do the baggy thing or you put them into balls, wind them into balls. But let me show you where I'm at with my bag. It's going to be a huge bag, and I don't want to lose any stitches here, but here's the bag. I don't know if I can get it all on the camera. I'm actually just kind of knitting as I go. I loosely used a pattern, I think their pattern, where I knit the bottom rectangle and then I picked up stitches and I'm kind of decreasing every 4 inches, but I'm just putting stripes wherever I want. And I think I'm gonna use up all of the yarn and make a huge tote bag, and then I'm contemplating lining it with this polka dot canvasy material, although part of me thinks that when I get to that point I'm going to want to line it with another kind of stretchy material so that this stretches a little bit when you put items into the bag. And then for the handles, I'm going to just use, I think, an old belt and cut it into pieces and make it into a tote bag. So that's the project, and I'll keep you posted on how it's going. One thing I wanted to mention to you, when I first started using the linen, I thought, well, why don't I'm going to use a wooden needle. So I used this, these are needles that I had from Knit Picks, a package that I got. and I was finding the cord was too small and I wasn't liking the drag. So I thought, well, I think I'll just go back to my metal needles, and I'm using now the Chiago needles. When I switched these out though, I forgot the size needle I was using. So I grabbed my handy dandy needle gauge and I put it in the needle gauge, and it was supposed to be a size 6, but it fits in the size 5 hole. So I started knitting. I thought it was a size 5, and I started using the size 5, and I noticed my stitches were looking a little smaller, and so I went back into my Knit Picks bag and noticed that these were technically size 6, but they fit into the 5 on here. So have any of you ever had that problem? This has made me think I really do need to be a little more careful with my needles. And I wonder if wood needles in the summer, with the humidity, if they get a little bigger or a little smaller. Anybody else have that happen to them? If so, just leave me a note down below. But that was a little worrisome, and it's something that I'll always kind of make sure that I'm using the right size needle going forward. So that is my project bag that I'm working on. And then the other big thing that I'm working on, I don't know if I mentioned a while ago that I got this book, the Cocoa Knit Sweater Workshop. It's written by Julie Weisenberger. She is a designer by trade, so she knows how to construct clothing really, really well. And I'd heard that she has a little different technique for structure of her sweaters, so I was curious, since I've done kind of the bottom up, top down, raglan, yoke kind of sweaters, and the set and sleeve sweaters. I thought I would try this. The first sweater that caught my eye was Tallulah, and let's see if I can find, this is a picture of Tallulah, and it's in a worsted weight yarn, which I happen to have enough of my Madeline Tosh vintage in a really similar colorway. This is the Tern colorway, T-E-R-N, Mad Tosh vintage, and I am on the body right now of this sweater. It's a really cool construction. I think it's going to be a sweater that I wear a lot. It's a short sleeve sweater with a really neat, let me show you, shoulder seam. The sweater is knitting up so fast because I've been used to knitting with DK or fingering weight, and I don't know if there's much I want to tell you about it other than it's just a unique construction. I would check out the book. Lots of great information in this book. She talks about your body shapes and what silhouettes are most flattering for them. And in the pattern that I'm using right now, she actually talks about modifications to make the sweater even more flattering on different body types. So that's unique to me. I've not seen that in a pattern before, and I hopefully will have this done maybe by the next podcast. Who knows? But I like to knit sweaters in the summer because the idea of fall coming soon makes me really excited that I'll have some new clothes new handmade clothes to wear. So that is the Tallulah sweater, Cocoa Knits, in my Mad Tosh vintage yarn and Tern. Okay, the final finished object that I wanted to share with you, I finished quite a while ago. It's this wrap here. This is the Snow Melt shawl by Helen Stewart, Curious Handmade. I'm going to take her off Emma here and give you a better close-up. I used, the white is a Hedgehog Fibers yarn that I have, sock yarn that I had, and it's got some specks of black in it called Typewriter, and the green is Sue Said So, that green from Legacy Fiber Arts, and the blue is from Maui Yarns, and I forget the name of it, but gorgeous, gorgeous. I have to say the Hedgehog was my least favorite of the yarns. I've not knit much with hedgehog, but I think their sock yarn is probably good for only socks. It was really splitty. Well, first off, I had a nightmare. This is several episodes ago. I think I mentioned my hedgehog debacle in just winding up the yarn. The way that it was skeined up was confusing, and to wind it off was a nightmare. I ended up in different sections, and my dad helped me wind them into balls. It blocked out beautifully, but it was such a splitty yarn, and the whole process was not fun. So I'm glad that it's in this and looks nice. The other yarns, I think, work really well together. I love this pattern, and I think I mentioned earlier that I really like Chiagu lace needles for lace knitting. The Chiagu has a little bit of grip on it, so when you're knitting lace, it's less likely to fall off the needle. And then the big green cord is fabulous just to hold the yarn overs in place and the other lace stitches. So my definite needle of choice for lace knitting. I think that's all I wanted to mention about this. Let me just show you though the before and after of this particular shawl, and I'll put it in right here. It's all in the blocking, folks. This is not a shawl that I think I would wear forward. This is definitely a over-the-shoulder kind of shawl for me, and more of a summer weight shawl as well. So anyway, that's my snow melt. Another quick thing I wanted to just mention, and I'm going to share a little bit more in depth on the next podcast, is I started spinning. I have had so much fun spinning, and the last several years of knitting, I was not really interested in spinning, and until I started learning about different sheep breeds, that's really when I started to want to actually feel the different breeds in my hands and actually do the spinning. So I started to think about what kind of wheel I wanted. And I saw that, oh gosh, a while ago there was a crowdfunding site for a spinning wheel called the Electric Eel spinning wheel, and I found out about it too late, couldn't get in on it, but put my name in so that they could let me know when the next round of the spinning wheels, the electric spinning wheels, would be ready. I got the email and I jumped on it and I ordered it. And meanwhile, when I was thinking about spinning wheels, I thought, gosh, I love the idea of an electric wheel, but is that kind of, not, is that cheating? And then I heard a wise person tell me, do we think using a sewing machine is cheating? Back in the day, they didn't have sewing machines, and they created the sewing machine, and we don't think sewing machine is cheating, so why would we think an electric wheel was cheating? And in fact, when the first spinning wheels came about, before that, they would just use spindles, drop spindles. So, it's just another way to create our craft in a more efficient, quick way. So I let go of that thought that I was cheating by getting an electric wheel, and I went ahead and got that wheel. And while that was in the mail coming to me, I made a trip to my hometown and visited with a relative of mine who had mentioned that an old family spinning wheel was in the attic of one of the old homesteads, and next time I come to the hometown, I should check it out. So she invited me to go up into the attic, and we pulled out the old spinning wheel, and I'm going to insert a picture in here of the wheel. I think I have some before and afters, before I cleaned it up and after. So this wheel has not been used for many, 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 many years. It actually had yarn, you probably saw spun singles on there that were spun in the grease. They had to have been really greasy, caked on, and I worked on getting some of that out because I wanted to save some of the yarn that was spun by my ancestor. We believe that this was the spinning wheel of she would be my great-great-grandmother. It seems as though she probably brought it over from Germany, where she came from. It's a wheel that can be easily taken apart into small pieces and put into whatever luggage she had coming over. It's a castle-style German spinning wheel, from what I can tell, and the research that I've tried to do on spinning wheels. If any of you have any more information, that would be great. Feel free to just drop me a line. I'm not an expert on spinning wheels at all. I'm just starting in this, so I'm so curious about the wheel. It needs some work, and I look forward to doing that work. The wheel itself turns really well, and I have all the parts except for a little leather piece that holds the actual spindle in place, so the whirl, I'm learning all the technology, can go around. That piece of leather broke off. We have the little piece of leather, so hopefully I can replicate that and fix that. I also need to fix the what's the word that makes the wheel go up and down from the foot pedal, the footman. We have the original footman, so I need to work on that a little bit. And I only have one bobbin. No, I have two bobbins, but it's been really fun. There were also some pieces with it that I had no idea what they were at the time, but since I've kind of gone online and read, I have the original Lazy Kate that my ancestor used, and as well as the original, and I'll put pictures in here too, skein winder. As I was winding up the old yarn off of the spindle, I thought, how am I going to get this off the skein winder? I just pulled a little, and one of the skein winder legs just tilted. I had no idea why one was on a peg and the others weren't, and that's why, to get the yarn off. So it's just been a lot of fun learning about that and thinking that how lucky am I to be the caretaker for this generation of my great-great-grandmother's spinning wheel that probably was brought over with her. I'm sure she couldn't take a lot when she came over, so it was so important to her that she brought it with her to America. So I will talk about my spinning in the next episode a little bit more in detail. I'm having a lot of fun with that. But I just wanted to show you some pictures and talk to you about where I'm at with that. Okay, so to finish up the podcast today, I was a lucky girl the last couple of months, and I won 2 prizes from podcast friends. The first one that I want to show you is right up my alley, and let me just turn around and get it. I love to talk and learn and talk about sheep breeds, and I won from Melissa from Knitting the Stash. Hi, Melissa. I won this amazing raw wool sample pack that was given to give away by Ranching Tradition Fiber. You can find them on ranchingtraditionfiber.com. And they put together this really cool pack that includes the Unicorn Power Scour, and it includes BFL, which is raw and unwashed, as well as Suffolk Targhee Rambouillet Cross wool, and then a pure Targhee wool. And it comes in these packages, and I can't wait to try this. And it smells like sheep, I will tell you that right now. Here's the card from Ranching Tradition Fiber. It just came in this box all ready for me to try, and I'm really looking forward to this because I have started spinning, and these small amounts I can do in my utility tub. I've got the Power Scour now, and I will be sharing that with you, the results on a future podcast when we're talking about these specific breeds. So thank you so much, Melissa. That was very exciting to win, and Melissa is starting what sounds like will be a really fun knit along. I have said that I would love to participate. She'll be sending people, I guess DPNs, where we will knit an by 8 square. The yarn that we're to use for the 8 by 8 square needs to be yarn that is special to us, that's local to us if possible, but more of a place-based yarn. So, and then we send back the square to her, and it's just going to kind of hopefully go all around the podcast world, and she'll create a blanket or two, which then she will draw from the people who've contributed, and that will be the winner of the blanket. So I'm looking forward to doing that. The other prize that I won, and this will be a good way to finish out the podcast today, my friend Mars, Hey Brownberry Podcast, she and Shannon, as part of the Knitters of the World knit along, did North America together, and they did a few podcast episodes together, and I loved their chemistry. The two of them did such a nice job on their podcast together. If you haven't checked those episodes out, definitely do. And both of them have wonderful podcasts as well. They had a question on one of their episodes together that asked how knitting is like life, and to kind of think of some analogies of how knitting relates to life and living in this world. So I don't know, I was inspired from that question, so I responded, and they did a random number generator, and I won this really fun package from Lola Blue, which is a Florida-based soap and body lotion company, all in summer coconut. I've been enjoying this stuff up in my craft room, especially the hand lotion, the little bar of soap I will certainly enjoy, and then the summer coconut body scrub. So that was very fun to win in the mail. And I thought I would just end this podcast with what I wrote for my submission. Again, the question was, how does knitting relate to life? I wrote, knitting is such a metaphor for life. Each life experience is a stitch. We are born into this world, the cast on, some having better tools than others, needles and yarn. As we begin living, or stitching, some stitches are right on gauge, some are wonky, some leave you empty, yarn over. Some are done together, knit two together. Some make you miss out on other things, PSSO. Some make you feel clever, brioche. And some require serious help from others, cable needles. It might seem all over the place, but if we learn from our mistakes, frogging, and understand when we are on the right path, right side versus wrong side, at our bind off, we'll have created a piece of art that is the sum of its parts, like none other. So I'll leave you with that thought today. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time on the next episode of Treehouse Knits. Bye.